I'm Bob Koenig. I work here at the church. I'm privileged to be the spokesperson for the building committee for our Renewing God's House project. Welcome to the third presentation in a series of communications that we are putting out to the congregation about our project. My privilege to be here, joined by, there we go, isn't that a good-looking group? We have a really talented group of people with expertise and dedicated lay and clergy that are part of this building committee. I'd ask those who are here to please just stand up so people get to know you better and know where to go with their questions. So, and thank you very much. One face is missing. Tom Schamberger began with this group, and he's been very involved, as you know, from in phase one. He had to drop off the committee, but we owe him much gratitude also. I want to start today by just doing a really quick history. This shot of our existing church shows the fact that this building has evolved through three constructions: the original in 1911, the addition in 1958, and then the addition in 1996. And that took us to the size of building that we are currently. All of those things added to our footprint. They occurred about 40 years apart. But in between these major adds to the building, which come along about every 40 years, and plus, I'm not sure where we would build the next addition. In between those additions, there is the need for us to always periodically look at, is the building still fulfilling our functions in our ministry? Is it set up to do the job that we want it to do? Is it holding together? Are we keeping it aesthetically looking, pleasing? Things like paint, carpet, etc. And are the things behind the walls holding together? Because your heating and ventilating, air conditioning systems, these are things that have a lifetime to them, and you need to pay attention to them. So that's where the current Renewing God's House project started, was looking at this footprint and saying, what needs to happen with our existing building to continue to do ministry here. So, believe it or not, we are evolving to 10 years since this thing started. In 2014, the church launched a look at our whole building to evaluate what needs to happen with this whole building to serve our ministries. There were all kinds of cottage meetings. A full professional engineering study was done of the deferred maintenance items, the things behind the walls. We refreshed the mission statement of our church so we knew the kinds of things that we had in mind going forward. We did a feasibility study of funding that might support this whole church effort, which, by the way, at that point in time was in the $6 to $7 million range for the whole project, okay? That's what was put forth to the congregation, and we had James Company, a fundraising company, come and do, and a lot of you met with them and were part of the first project. But it was right at that point in time, after that feasibility study, where we said we don't have enough funds in total to do this project starting right now. The pledges that came in will support us going forward and doing part of it. So we're going to have to split this up. We're going to do a phase one and a phase two. So right there is where that happened. Phase one, the worship space, the organ, the sloped roof, those were picked to go forward with in 2019 and 2020. And then phase two, for all the rest of our building, was to begin immediately after phase one. And we split it off that way and moved forward. The good news is phase one was completed on time and on budget at the end of February of 2020. The organ, which was done but had to wait for delivery because of COVID and those workers traveling, didn't get installed till that fall. But it was that project got completed, and so we were ready at that point in time to move on to phase two. But COVID changed everybody's plans. Right? We just 3 weeks into the new space, we had to shut down for COVID, and we were apart. And at the start of 2020, phase one was done. That was everything within this circle. And phase two includes everything outside of that circle, which is where we were going to go next and still are going next. But we didn't touch this part of our property or the exterior surfaces of our building or the parking lot. Nothing outside of worship space, organ, and a beautiful new roof that was put on there. All right? So that's where we still are, and that's where we're going next in this project. I want you to note something here in this picture, by the way. What is this building here? That's a PCI, okay? Keep something in mind here. During the time that all of this building was being done and completed by 1996, when you looked over here, there was no building there. That's where our parking was, Allen Motor Company parking lot, okay? And members would park here and come into the portico entrance, and up we'd go. And that made all kind of sense for the entrance to our building at the time that these major additions were done. During that 3-year phase, when you didn't see any new construction, there was a lot of work being done by the building committee, and we spent hundreds of hours meeting with our architect, our general contractor, committees, church building users. All of this was researching and trying to make sure we had a good definition of what we needed to do with the rest of the building, and actually spent the time trying to look at options and have them drawn up for us and priced out, and et cetera, et cetera. That was also during the time where we had a church consultant by the name of Mark McDonald, who came in to do a look at us from a vantage point of somebody who wasn't a member, and we were asking him about how accessible, visible, how did things work for somebody who tried to come to our church as a stranger. And he gave us an interesting report, some of which you folks saw if you were on council and shared all that, etc. But that was all done. And so the building committee, at the end of this 3 years now, has identified 4 major goals for the remainder of our building that we have here. The first has to do with repurpose and remodeling for much better welcoming, wayfinding, accessibility, engagement by the people who come in this part of our building, because that's where our ministry hits the road, right? This is where ministry is carried out in the rest of this building. The second was to repair, refresh, replace stuff that needs mechanically to be replaced, and includes things like paint and carpet and heating, ventilating, air conditioning, flat roofs, things that are maintenance items. In the last 2 Sunday presentations that we've done, we covered these 2 items at a high level, but just generally we're informing you what was going on there. Today we're going to go deeper in that. The third item for the second phase here is retiring the debt that is left over from phase 1. Okay, and we'll get into that. And the fourth has to do with reaching out to our local community and such, which is as we do fundraising and the like, we like a percentage of that to be given outside of our church, just like we do for our normal operating budget. So that's what's included there, and we'll talk about that next time. Okay, but today's agenda: share more detail on Goal 1, the entrance and the new narthex renovation. Secondly, share more detail on Goal 2, the paving of the parking lot and landscaping. And thirdly, review this Goal 3 of retiring the remaining debt from Phase 1. By a show of hands, how many of you were at the congregational meeting where we voted to make the administrative entrance our main entrance to the church? Okay, it's a trick question. So, okay, thank you. It's a trick question. We didn't have a meeting to make that our main entrance. Okay, how did that happen then? You know, why is it our main entrance? It became the main entrance by default when that building that you saw in the previous photo, the PCI building, took the parking lot away, okay? And the parking moved to where it is now, PCI's parking and our parking, and then the other places that we had been walking from before that. But the main parking, 90% of what comes to into our church comes from the east side now, that parking that's over there. You'll have to admit that that's not the most impressive place for somebody who is not familiar with our church to find their way in and find their way to welcoming and worship space. It never was intended to be. It has a purpose. It has a very important purpose, the admin entrance. It still has to be there for access to our office in and out. It still is there for access to the third floor for our children's ministries. They're going to continue there. It's still there for access to youth activities downstairs. It's still there for access to this room for on SEMP weekends where people come in and come down to this end. But it isn't the entrance that somebody would be looking for who doesn't know our church. So, in this whole building project, identifying a new main entrance has always been a high priority. It just didn't make the cut in Phase 1 because of funding. The whole worship space, it made sense to keep that together. The new organ, it made sense to keep that with the worship space. The new roof, it made sense because we couldn't keep shingles on it any longer over the whole thing. But that consumed all of our money plus. All right? So this entrance change had to wait to Phase 2. How was it that we arrived at the proposed location that is being shown in these drawings for the new entrance? The initial drawings way back when, some of you saw them, were for a large 3-story brick addition to our building right out here in the same general area, but it started at the admin, past the admin door, and incorporated that door and incorporated all of the plaza area right up to our existing church building. As we worked with Rinderneck moving, again, looking at Phase 2, it became painfully obvious that the construction cost increases driven by the pandemic and inflation made that kind of an entrance totally uneconomical to pursue. That was going to be plus $2 million just for that structure, just for that part of the project, just for that kind of an entrance, was their first guess to say. We said, well, let's not, we got to look at the options. We actually researched and had them draw up 2 more options that were built add-ons to the building, that were extensions out from the portico. one that went almost to the admin entrance, but was not as tall and was just that straight ahead view. The second drawing went all the way to the existing building and only gave us a small airlock set of doors that allowed us to come in. We would move the portico doors. We'd eliminate those, move the wall out, and have people come in through the portico. The last pricing they did on that small thing was $1 million, just for that. And it was like, it doesn't work for us. So to the final point here, which is probably because this entrance meets these other criteria that we felt were very important, it is considerably less costly to build within an existing structure of a building than it is do an add-on, where you start from the foundation up and do all those kinds of add-ons. So this proposed entrance knocks a hole in an existing wall, but it doesn't have all of that. Every element of a construction project that's an add-on starts at the foundation and adds cost in every aspect of building a new building. If you're opening up a wall and residing now inside of an existing building, many of those same expenses are eliminated or reduced. Okay? And still, we chose it because of the close proximity to the parking. It's the next closest door, to the admin. The ease of providing a clear line of sight is important, that people who don't know us and are going to come from that parking in the PCI lot can, as they're approaching us, can actually see where they're going, because you go where your eyes tell you to go. It was more easy to modify for welcoming and the like. We couldn't go inside the existing admin door and open that up and try to move over from there for two reasons. There's not enough room. You only have a 5.5 foot opening that you could have knocked in that wall if you came in those admin doors. The second thing is you breached the firewall on the fire exit to the building and such. All of that opens up a can of nasty and expensive things like now maybe you got to sprinkler the building. I mean, it's a big deal. The aha moment, we heard that in the sermon today, right? Aha moment. The aha moment for the building committee here was move it 5 feet. Don't breach anything inside that administrative door. Move this entrance and put an entrance 5 feet from it. Knock it in the wall and come on up. And that's how we ended up where we are currently in these proposed pictures. Any questions about that? Because I think it's really important to understand the nature of the work that was done and the options that were explored.
If you make that the main entrance, that elevator is still by the portico, right?
Yes.
And so how do people coming in that main entrance get to that elevator?
We still have the entrance in the portico.
Okay.
All right, that is still there. In fact, and it's going to be better because the surface under the portico of the parking lot will be raised, so there's no curb.
Right.
So you can actually pull in there, unload, and come in. There'll be a slider door and a set of entrance doors. Yeah. So here it is. Here's our current admin entrance that we've been beaten up on so badly, but it wasn't its fault. It just was. Thank it for what it did for us, right? But move 5 feet over, and here is the size of the entrance that would become the new narthex and worship space entrance. Another picture of it backing off, standing over by PCI, okay? I took this shot because you've got a drawing that I'm going to show you next that actually shows this same view now as drawn by our architect of where it would go. But again, for point of reference, here's that admin door. Here is the new door location. Again, here's the admin entrance door. Here is our new proposed entrance, okay? And it reflects the height and width of the opening, which include both doors and glass for that entrance space right in here. It shows the plaza area that is right out in front of this new entrance. A bench shows the ability to continue to traverse on to the portico entrance if you're wanting to do that. Shows the ability to have group gatherings out here in the portico area right outside of the door.
Interior space, what's in that space now?
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's coming. So obviously this takes interior space, right? Because that was part of the whole premise. We're going to stay inside the walls and repurpose space in there to do what we needed to do. This is the view you would have when you walked into that entrance, showing the doors, the glass doors, and the glass panels that are what you would see as you walked into. We actually have a vestibule now. When you walk in the admin door, you've got a landing platform, right? Okay. All right. So here you'd step in from this side, First Lutheran Church, clearly marked, seeable through these glass doors and windows, an set of airlock doors that you can have open and shut so you keep the good old north and east winds from blowing in like it does currently or over in the portico. And through those open doors, you would traverse up and go into the narthex. What exists here right now is the kitchenette of the narthex. So where the donuts come from on Sunday mornings, behind that, donuts will be kept. So just hang on. But that would replace that. Plus, in room 101 down here, there is a old nursery space that hasn't been used for a while, and which is being used now for Joel Reeves does his he offices in there. Okay, but it's a space that's very tradable for that, according to Joel and everybody else. So we're not kicking Joel out of the church. We're just taking that end of that nursery, okay? So you come in on the ground level, and then you, just like at the admin, you have to go up a set of stairs to get to the second level. By the way, I did have a shot of, this is where this new stairway enters the narthex, and that's where the donuts come from. Here's where the donuts are served currently, right? Okay, so that's where it enters, and this drawing then gives a shot of what that would look like. So the only thing that this displaces is the kitchenette and that partial room right back here where Joel offices. I mean, all the way along this side, just think about it, those windows exist currently, so you've got an entrance that's got windows, art on one side, windows on this side, bringing you up. When you get to the narthex area, we have a couple of sketches. Our architect hasn't done a refresh on these. You saw these if you were at our last meeting, but this is at the top of those stairs that you just arrived at the narthex, this is what your view would look like. Oop. There are the doors to the worship space and the windows to the worship space. This is looking left. This is the rest of the narthex area. Much more open, much more, fewer columns to navigate around, more line of sight visibility for things that you would want to see. This is that narthex also drawn from the 3rd Avenue. So if you're coming in from the 3rd Avenue, here's 3rd Avenue out here, you're coming up those stairs, you're going to view the narthex from here, and you could, in those blown up photos, you can tell the kitchenette is over here, the serving windows are over here, and this space is larger because it comes out from the existing columns, but the columns are all either removed or skinnied down, and the floor demarcating this area comes out beyond those columns and gives it more roominess. Oh, and in the ceiling, today we have those archways that and soffits that really break that whole area up into 3 different chunks. The goal of this was not to have is to have the view of our welcoming space achievable without the hindrances of some of those things. Okay, so you could come in from here, you could come in from the new entrance on this side and actually see what's going on. Okay, so the existing coat room has been removed. Coat storage will be provided on a portable, made to blend in with a cart kind of a thing, where you could actually hang with hangers on it, where you could hang your coat. Okay, today that whole area where the kitchenette is going to go is that coat room, and essentially nobody uses that anymore. By the way, people have become accustomed to wearing their coats in, keeping them with them or whatever. But if you want to remove it, there will be that rack that will be a place where you could hang your coat. With the parking lot, it's a view a little bit more from the east toward our new that new entrance, but not a whole lot. But this whole the sidewalk from PCI up to the new entrance, the sidewalk will actually move another 8 feet from where it comes across right now from PCI, which will align it exactly with this sidewalk that's right behind these shrubs and in front of these shrubs that will guide you to the new entrance. We have civil plans, which is the drawings for all the topology and everything to redo the parking lot. And this is that plaza area I was just pointing out. This is where PCI's parking lot is. This is where the current sidewalk comes across. We would move it down here, and then it would be a straight across shot to this area with some plantings on this side, plantings on this side, the ability to drop off and pick up along here, but not the ability to just stay parked and do that, okay? It's come on in, do your drop off, keep on going like we do today. You'll see some changes. David Selk, by the way, is the member of our building committee who has been the lead on this because he knows what he's doing. that's his professional occupation. But so he's been a great help along with Hall & Hall engineers who have done it. We don't have time to get into the details. What I'm telling you is right now we have the plans as they're currently intended to change for this. And you're going to see that there's some changes with angled in parking, here to get some more of that. There's going to be some changes with, like I said, the elevation underneath the portico, so it's higher. You can drop people there directly, etc. But there's a lot of detail here, which I don't have time to cover here with you now, but we've got it, and you are encouraged to take a look at it. The third item I do want to talk to is retirement. The goal number 3 for this phase is retiring the debt from the first phase. And yes, there was debt. This is the PowerPoint presentation that was done at the congregational meeting to vote on phase 1 construction on March 24th, 2019. Okay. Included in that meeting and approved at that meeting was the financial information for phase 1, where we projected income of 3.7 million. We had expenditures for everything we were including in phase 1, the sanctuary interior, the organ, architect, all of our, the fundraising, etc., of 4.2 million, saying that when we got done with phase 1, we would have a $520,000 deficit at that point in our building project. The council said, we want to do those things. The congregation said we want to do those things. And although we don't have all the income now from this first round, we know we're going to deal with this in phase 2. So, it was approved in March that there would be a 520,000 excess. The plan was for the second fundraising campaign for phase 2 to pay off the debt incurred during phase 1. The phase 1 deficit came in right on budget at 520. Today it is at 545 because when we completed in 2020, we paid interest for 3 more years on that debt. The good news is it's a low rate of interest because right now, folks, 100% of that has been financed through an interchurch loan from our general fund to the building fund. Okay? But as we do phase 2, the intention wasn't to go into this project and end up with an additional mortgage, unless we didn't see any other way. The intention was to do the project, raise the funds, pay it off. We have a current mortgage of $330,000 on our existing building that we pay on. Right? That has come from years past of adding on to the building. How can you learn more? And like I said, this isn't intended to be the first or the last of these, but we have a lot of communication to do. There's a lot of people who weren't here at that time. That's good news. We got a lot of new faces, but we also have some people who have passed away and others that won't be part of continuing this. So we've got to get the word out to those folks who don't have some of this same history, and so we can get their either support or not. You know, we're not going to build something that the congregation doesn't want to pay for. The next meeting is on the 21st, right here. That's a Sunday, two weeks from today. And at that point in time, I expect to be able to give you some more definitive cost budgetary information now. Now that we've got the kinds of plans you see on that table back there, RenderNet working with their subs, can get us some budgetary cost numbers. And so expect that to be happening here on the 21st. On February 4th is the annual congregational meeting. We will have a small session at the congregational meeting of roundtables discussing renewing God's house. and really getting some sense of how well the congregation, or how informed the congregation feels like they are right now about this thing. The plan is to do a series of cottage meetings, small group meetings at church, in homes, and online following the annual meeting, and then up till April. Again, allowing more input. You guys get hardly any input in these meetings, and we will, this is where that kind of stuff can happen. We're just trying to give you a core dump on stuff that we've worked through and as we see it now. It's not finalized. I'll be right to your question. And lastly, I want you to know that room 111, down this hallway and right at the bottom of the administrative entrance door, is going to be set up to be a Renewing God's House project resource room during the first quarter of this year, where all of these drawings, but all of the detail plans, all of the pictures, and we probably have, well, I know we got 500 pictures, but there's probably 60 or 80 that really make sense of showing you, illustrating for you things that we see that you can't see, that need to be fixed, that are inside the walls and on the top of the flat roof and things like that. We're going to be putting those pictures up there too. So it's available for you to come in and take a look at. And this next week we'll be setting that up. We know that we've got a communication challenge, that we want to get as many people as possible. And so it's coming through the spotlight now and the light, but there are other places that's going to have to be to connect with those folks.